Hello and welcome everyone to my League Start recap, where we are going to take a look at physical Animate Weapon and see how it compares to other versions of the build, followed by a closer look into the Crucible mechanic, and last but not least, some early League bossing footage. Quick note before we get started, my early League strategy for mapping utilized growing hordes with 4 rusted scarabs to increase pack size while doing Blight and Expedition as main League mechanics. The map of choice is Jungle Valley with Blight and Metamorph compasses, and Fortune favors the Brave as Kirak mod, costing less than 10 Chaos total investment per map, and I'm of course leaving the link to that Atlas skill tree in the comments below. League starting with physical Animate Weapon in general is comparable to the Cold and Chaos versions, at least early on, meaning it's easy to level and map progression is reasonable. However, Chaos Animate Weapon starts outscaling the other versions as soon as the player gets access to Severed in Sleep due to Envy, which represents a large amount of flat added Chaos damage, which scales Animate Weapon strongly, because the weapons don't have base damage and instead get flat added physical damage based on gem levels. The other thing is Withered, which increases Chaos damage taken by up to 90%, and getting it from Severed in Sleep frees up a support link that was previously occupied by Withering Touch, allowing for even more damage. Comparing damage of the physical and the chaos version makes it obvious that even at League start, physical Animate Weapon is inferior, and the difference is made worse by transitioning to medium budget because of the aforementioned advantages of Chaos Animate Weapon. The physical and cold versions need to craft powerful minion wands and still only manage to catch up to the Chaos version in the higher medium budget, but outperform Chaos Animate Weapon in terms of minion survivability due to Bone Barrier. Additionally, physical Animate Weapon will significantly outperform Chaos and Cold Animate Weapon in terms of damage at high budgets, at the cost of having a much slower start, making the physical version the preferred choice at high budget, and Chaos Animate Weapon the best League start version of the build. Which brings me to the other topic of the video, the Crucible mechanic. The forges and maps allow you to create random Crucible passive trees and allocate points by further using the mechanic. The trees have multiple branches with up to 5 passives and varying levels of interconnectivity, featuring different modifiers with several tiers, depending on the item, so whether it's one-handed or two-handed, and the specific item base in question. And you can move between the different branches utilizing the available connections in order to reach this passive, but you can only ever move away from the starting passive, meaning you can't move back and forth in order to maximize the amount of allocated passives. A full list of modifiers can be found on PoEDB.tw in the Crucible Weapon Passives subsection. The modifiers on your item are chosen from a list of eligible modifiers. So in case of minion wands, from wand and minion weapons, with the modifiers from wand weapons being largely undesirable for summoners. The Crucible passive trees can be removed or recombined, with one of the items being destroyed that way, in the Forge of Titans, which can be accessed via Primeval and Primordial remnants. And the Forge of the Titans also allows for the addition of a Crucible passive tree to uniques, but the recombination of those items require 2 copies of the same unique, making crafting powerful Crucible passive trees on unique items much more costly. To craft items with specific trees, you need to recombine them in a way that increases the chance of retaining desirable passives, and you can influence that chance in the following ways. You can abuse the position of the passives on the Crucible tree. For example, the passives of these 2 items are on the same position. So if you recombine them, the new item can only have one of them, or in some cases roll a new modifier but never both of the old ones. The other method is allocating the passives in your skill tree. For example, these 2 modifiers have an increased chance to be retained because they're both allocated. In general, the most effective way to craft powerful Crucible trees is to combine items with similar trees and allocated desirable modifiers, and to craft your target tree from the first to the last passive in order to reduce the amount of recombinations and as such items with proper trees that you have to buy or craft yourself. For example, let's say you wanted to craft a desirable passive onto this item by combining it with a wand that has a desirable passive such as this one. In order to increase the chance, you should unallocate the undesirable passive by using a scouring orb on the passive while you're standing at the forge. Let's just assume this resulted in successfully getting you a first desirable passive, and we're going to assume that this is the wand you would end up with. You could then recombine it with another wand who has two desirable passives, which you would both allocate before recombining them. Or you could recombine the first item with an item that has one desirable passive and another undesirable one, so both are unallocated before you recombine it with the first item. And the second method obviously has a lower chance of retaining both desirable modifiers, but obtaining the materials is easier. For Animate Weapon, we want the generic flat crit reduced attack speed and the Animate Lingering Blade flat crit modifier and optimally flat added damage as the first node. Flat physical damage being great for physical and cold Animate Weapon, whereas for Chaos you want Chaos damage plus chance to poison. When I crafted my wand, I wasn't aware that allocating passives increases the likelihood of retaining them, which is why I just combined two wands with the flat crit modifiers that I wanted, and as you can see, I ended up with both of them, but I did end up losing the first passive, which kind of is annoying. Personally, I'm a bit disappointed there isn't more to this league than this mechanic, because after you're done crafting, you're pretty much just playing standard with some minor buffs being thrown into the mix. I guess I just hope for something with more depth that isn't just coming from the large amount of modifiers. So yeah, tell me what you think about Crucible League, and as per usual, you can leave questions and suggestions in the comments below. I will get to them as soon as I can. My next video will be about how you can progress Animate Weapon in general, including transitioning to CI. With that said, I'm going to leave you with the Sirus Fight.
Fury of the Cosmos!
What's this? A real challenge? You finally caught my attention.
Why run? What's the point? Glorious flames! You are nothing! Rain of stars! Creation itself!
The others found strength in their projection. They became reliant. Not so foolish. Die. Die.
Why run? What's the point? You are nothing! Obliteration! Rain of stars! Creation itself!
Really interesting enough to warrant all this pain. Die.
I have seen beyond. This city is nothing! Glorious flames! utterly annihilated. Fury of the cosmos.
Death. I am alive. You will long for
Non-existence. This world is doomed. Be silent. Everlasting fire. Die.
you will long for
Non-existence. Be silent. This world is doomed.